Hello, guys. Welcome to the channel Scrum Express by Hector. Glad to have you over here. So, on February 11th to 13th, 2001, at the lodge at Snowbird Ski Resort in the Wasatch Mountains of Utah, 17 people met to talk, ski, relax, and try to find a common ground and, of course, to eat. I got here in the virtual studio one of the co creators of the Agile manifesto, actually, the only guy based outside of the United States out of the 17 guys that were invited back in 2001. Let's welcome Arie. Is this correct? Were you the only one invited outside of the United States? Welcome to the channel.
Yeah. Stephen Mellon is, to my knowledge, is British, but he was living in the United States. So I think you're completely correct, Hector.
Awesome. So I feel a little disappointed from this paragraph because, was there not tequila over there or some beer?
Okay, so first of all, you need to know that although a lot of people are skiing in the Netherlands on winter trips, I had never skied before. When I got to Salt Lake, I never seen a ski in my life. The Netherlands is flat as a pancake, right? So there's nothing to do over there when it comes to skiing. You have to go to Austria or Switzerland or something. So no skiing on my part. Enjoying the cold because that's what I like a lot, and the snow, etc. Tequila, well, I don't know. I had wines and beers, but to get one myth out of there was not like an abuse of alcohol over there, right? We did some sane talk, and just for the record, we start at 7:30 in the morning. So you have to be sharp, right? if you do that kind of thing.
Got it. Okay. So getting a little more serious, Arie, how did this happen? I mean, could you tell me a little story of what happened the days before? What were you doing? I mean, not every day you're having breakfast when you get a call and you get an invitation to change the software development practice forever, right? So tell me a little about it.
So my story, because I can only explain it from my side. To my knowledge, Alistair Coburn was one of the initiators of a meeting that originally was for maybe 5 to 6 people to work on something, on a publication in Salt Lake. At the time, I think Alistair was living in Salt Lake, and one of his friends, Dane Faulkner, I happened to know him. And when it became clear to Dane that what the topic, what would be on the agenda, he said, okay, I think you need to talk to some people from Europe as well. And I was very active in the DSDM community, the Agile Project Management Framework, is it called these days. And headquarters of that consortium, to a community, Mary Hansen gave me a call and she said, Arie, can you represent us going to Salt Lake? Because Mary knew Dane knew Mary and me, and right, there was a triangle of knowledge. We had met in Manchester in the UK. And I just took, it was on a Thursday that I was, I'm pointing in that direction, close to home, a couple of minutes away from home in my car. But I got a call from Mary, said, hey, Saturday morning, can you fly to Utah to represent us? I said, yes, I can. And the next thing that I know is on Saturday morning, I was at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam with 2 boxes full of CDs and books and stuff to take with me, and to go to Salt Lake. And I was together with Dane. Dane picked me up from the airport, and okay, the rest is history.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So when you got there and you started discussing about what should be in the manifesto, you started defining Agile, etc. Was Scrum already in the picture? I mean, I know that Scrum have already been kind of created, but there was no Scrum guide, right? And Kanban had already been created like 30 years before, but also there were no official guides or anything, right? So my question would be, was Scrum and Kanban part of the conversation, or was this totally not taken in consideration when defining the Agile manifesto?
So when we were writing the manifesto, we were 17 guys in the room, as you said, and we had 13 different frameworks represented in the room. And one of them was Scrum, and one of them was Extreme Programming, and one of them was FDD, and one of them was TDD, and one of them was DSDM, the one that I brought in, and Crystal, and Adaptive. There is a very nice book, Hector, about it. It's written by Alistair Coburn and Jim Highsmith. Here you go.
Oh, nice.
Right, and it's, I think, within a year after. I mean, within 6 months maybe after the session, this book was published. And actually, I remember a year ago we had the 20-year celebration of the manifesto, and I was with Alistair in one of those fireside chats, and he said, it was a couple of months after writing the manifesto that I was reading about the 9 principles of DSDM. We should just put them on the web, and we would have been okay. Because on our side, the writing process, we started with, okay, we all work in a different way. Let's just start explaining how we work, so we understand why we are working different, and how you are working, because you're working TDD. What does it mean? Oh, you're working Crystal. What does it mean? You're working DSDM. What does it mean? And then we started to look for similarities. And the first question is, okay, what is it that you try to achieve? And I remember that the word flexible was, of course, on the table as part of the discussion. And we
Okay.
ended up with the word agility. Yeah, with Agile.
Awesome. Do you guys still talk to each other? Like, do you have a reunion? Do you have a WhatsApp group or something?
No. We have, every now and then, I've contact with some of the people, not with everybody. Some people have just disappeared. But especially now, before the 20th celebration, I would have had contact with James Grenning, and I met Ward Cunningham, and we had some email exchange. Alistair Coburn was there, a couple of people. And then since a year, people like Andy Hunt are back online to me as well, right? But it's not with everybody. The last meeting we had was in 2011, and we agreed to meet again in 3 years. So that would have been 2014. It never happened. So
Okay.
busy, busy,
Um,
busy, right?
yeah, everyone should be very busy after that. What
Uh,
happened? So do you think that as you were writing the manifesto and talking about the ideas, you were actually applying many of the valuable values and principles that were written in the Agile Manifesto, actually, right? Well, because everyone had a different idea and you had to define the way of working over there. You had to come to a consensus, or you have to, I don't know, talk a lot and as a team come to something, right? Something important. So it looks like it was pretty agile for me, right? Because it should have not been easy, right?
no, it wasn't easy. And if you look at the manifesto, the values we agreed on during that session, but the principles we finalized over email. And this flood of emails that was going up and down, because the point is, you have 17 people working different in their own way, and they might have something about people and their interaction over processes and tools, but how do you want to see that line written, right? And that, especially on the principles, took some time, but no, we got there, right? So that's good.
Okay. Um, Ari, will there be a manifesto version dot point zero or something at some point, or do you think that this is for life? Or...
Of course, we get this question more often, Hector. Hey, Arie, what would you have done differently? Or are you going to get it and write a new one? And I remember that a year ago we got that question: are you going to write a new version of it? And then Jon Kern said, the question is always, who's going to maintain it? Who's going to look after it? He said, on my part, no. And also on my part, by the way, Hector, is the same thing. The way I see the Agile Manifesto is, for example, the Declaration of Independence, right? It's there. It's written down until today. It's very valid. It's very active. The things that are written in there are still very much applicable. And we need worldwide still a massive load of change and improvement to even be close to what we wrote in the manifesto. So, because most companies are still far away from it, right?
Okay. Okay. So I know that you have participated in many agile transformations, right? So let's do some exercise. I'm the CEO of an online gaming company. We develop software, online game, and we have 500 engineers that have been doing Waterfall for the last 10 years, right? I call Arie and I say, hey, could you help me? I want to do an agile transformation. Could you walk me through the process of making my company go from Waterfall to Agile? How would you, what would be the big or the high level? I mean, this answer could take 10 hours, right? But
Yeah,
just in some high level steps, could you walk me through the process?
yeah, very simple to explain, to do something different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's very important if you're the CEO and you want to have your organization changed. I like to make a metaphor. I would say to you, okay, for me, it's like you ask me, I want to be an athlete, and can you help me with a training and coaching program? Um, what I need to know is how fit are you at the moment, and what kind of an athlete do you want to be? Do you want to be a runner? You want to be a swimmer? You want to be a team player, an individual player? I don't know what you want to be, right? So I need to know where you are. I need to know where you want to go, because that will impact especially the first stages of transformation. And then an agile transformation is turned out to be very complicated. And I remember, and I always give this explanation to management teams because they ask me to do transformations. And I will say, when I was doing Agile in the late 90s, before even the Agile manifesto was written, I could do in one organization 3, 4 projects in a row successfully in
Mm-hmm.
this way of working. And every other project would be in trouble. But then the IT manager would say to me, oh, thank you very much. You're really doing well, but we're not going to work like you because it's so complicated. And then I always say, Agile itself is very simple, in my opinion. We have technology, of course, you can make technology as complicated as you like, but the fundament of Agile is the interaction between people. This is where you save all that time and you develop all that value and all that quality that you are doing together. So for me, the interaction is simple. How come that people that are having such a position say that it is so complicated? And I think they're not lying to me, right? Obviously, they have the feeling it's complicated. And I found out it's a paradigm change, and that is complicated because a paradigm change means that everything that your thinking is based on is changing.
Mm-hmm.
The way you document, the way you interact, the way you mandate people, the way you report, the way you test, everything is going to change. And that's the difficult part. So your change has to be focused on creating a paradigm change. Otherwise, you will bring change because people will learn it for a short moment. But of course, then where because they do something that they didn't do before, they don't have the answer to that problem, so they implement an old solution, and I call it innovating backward. You want to avoid that, right? So you need a roadmap for your transformation. Where are you? Where do you want to go? And you need to understand in the transformation process, you have to be agile as well. You have to think forward. You have to understand that you're going to walk a path you didn't walk before. Truths in the past no longer are truths in the agile way of working. Given facts are different, and that's what you need to be prepared for. And Mr. CEO, you are leading the transformation, and I don't mean that you have to have the knowledge to do so, but people will look at you. You have to role model agile working. You have to do it yourself. You have to facilitate the change in the organization because a lot of changes are on the formal level. You have to reorganize your operating model and decision making and everything, and then you have to make sure that your people will start to work in this way and will keep on working in this way, right? And that's the leadership responsibility. And of course, there are management coaches, people that help you out and will give you. But the role of any leadership team in an agile transformation is the make or break.
Awesome. Awesome. Great. Do you face a lot of CEOs that want to apply the transformation, the agile transformation, only to the IT teams or the production or the software instead of applying it to marketing, HR, etc.? Is that something that happens a lot?
Almost exclusively. The one thing that I hear all the time is, "Oh, we're going to transform IT first and then the business." And I always think, "Oh my God, you do agile transformations for the business because it's about business value." If I have a project, and I like to use the phrase full delivery, I have software development. I have maybe audit trails that I need to fix. I have data conversion. I have technical implementation. I have business change. I need my service desk trained because they get all the calls from the users in. I have so many things that I need to do. That's much more than just software. If you don't do the full delivery, right, you do only half the work. If I have all those teams working and software is fast and the rest is slow, my delivery to the market is slow. And
Yeah.
that's what I can't have anymore. So my marketing team needs to be aligned on this. My HR team recruiting the right people to be able to do the delivery needs to be aligned on this. So I need to have that full delivery. I need to understand that this is how it works.
Got it. Yeah, I agree. I'm with you, and it's a pain because most of the companies don't do it. Don't understand that, right? So, okay, Ari, one of the biggest decisions, probably not the biggest one, but an important one, when you are in this process of implementing an agile transformation with a waterfall company, is the framework that you are going to pick, right? There are many agile coaches looking at us looking at this recording or video, and they are wondering, well, I don't know exactly what criteria or how to pick Scrum versus Kanban versus start implementing Spotify or scale agile at scale or Scrum at scale, or how do you pick or how do you choose, what are the criteria to select the framework?
Uh, okay, so for me, it's very important that, first of all, I work agnostic, right?
Mhm.
I do not believe, because I've never seen it working exclusively on framework implementation and thinking then the miracle happens. It's not true. So you can see, is this visible for the people, right? So can you,
Yeah,
okay, so let me make a drawing. So
cool.
at one moment in time, I started, analyzing what is it that we did when we wrote the manifesto, right? And it's like this, right? When we wrote the manifesto, you can say that I know my full focus was on the value, and the value was there because I have been working in projects where governmental public money was wasted, like millions, and it just upset me. That was my driver to start working differently. But if you look at Scrum, I don't know. I think it was Jeff Sutherland who said, Scrum is based on lean. Lean is about efficiency in the car manufacturing industry, and Scrum is about efficiency in the software manufacturing industry. So efficiency. And if you talk to James Grenning, he is in the quality. He just wants to avoid bugs. And the reason we do this is, if you have bugs, you need to do rework, so you have a delay. If you're efficient, you waste time here, so you have a delay. If you deliver the wrong functionality, you have rework, you have a delay, and the delay is something that we cannot allow ourselves anymore.
Hmm.
Now, then you have, in terms of the people working, you have people that focus on the individual, the typical agile team, or large groups, right? Large group was my largest one was around 90 people that I work with. Parallel teams working on one backlog. If you look at this, then you can say, okay, James with James Grenning, TDD, right? Extreme programming also here, Scrum here. I think I can say that FDD is here, but John will correct me if I'm wrong. We have Crystal from Alistair, I think, here. We have Adaptive from Jim Highsmith here. We have DSDM that I represented here. So you can see there are different, let's say, methodologies that will help you out. Even, I never work without principles of lean and Kanban.
Hmm.
And now you can say, okay, if you look at this is agile. So you have the concept of agile, you have the methodologies, and every methodology has practices. And practices is that's what you do on a daily basis. The practice is what you do on a daily basis. The practice is what people in the teams do when it comes to things like visual management, when it comes to applying WIP limits, when it comes to the daily, when it comes to the retro, when it comes to the heartbeat. Those are practices, right? And I think every team, this is the body of knowledge that we talk about. For example, for agile coaches, Scrum masters, because they're also sort of coaching, right? And the moment that you do a retrospective and a problem shows up and you never know where the problem will be, You have to see, okay, where are we? What is it that we were late. Okay, what's going on? Oh, we had a unhappy client delivering the wrong. Oh, right. Oh, we had a lot of bugs. Oh, right. Then I know, okay, so the client that asked me, Arie, I'm a software manufacturer. My products are so many bugs that I only get to the incidents. I don't get to the new work. My clients are running away. My number of incidents has to go down by 50%. And then I said, okay, in the first 6 months of the Agile transformation, in your teams, we will focus dramatically on extreme programming and TDD. And that means that so by the time that we left, less than a year, they were already down by 30% on the bugs, 30% bugs less. Now you know that by applying, real Agile in your transformation, it's not about implementing a framework. That's what I keep on saying, because Agile is continuously improving. So it means that tomorrow you might identify a new Agile practice that nobody knew before,
Mm-hmm.
and it will help your teams. And it's not written down in a book. So now you can't use it? Oh, come on. That's bollocks, right? This is your body of knowledge. That's where you need to go. And by the way, Hector, if you ever invent an Agile practices that's helping you and your teams, can I ask you to go on stage on conferences and talk about it like we do?
Yeah, of course. Cool.
That's how Agile is. So I always say, you visit agnosticagile.org. Just read. And then you can have an idea about how it works. On Mighty, I will invite you for Mighty Networks. It's an app where we have an agnostic Agile community, and we have people with all kinds of certifications just trying to help each other out. We're close to 1,000 people now. It's a really nice community and growing. I will invite you on your email address that I have here, and then you can just find out more. So identifying on a framework, because that was your question, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I define my roadmap, it's like defining a product backlog. You define a transformation backlog, right? The roadmap of transformation. And I know it will be subject to change, but that client of mine said, the number of incidents has to go down by 50%. I know that in the initial steps in transformation, there needs to be a lot of work done in this area. And then I had another client that said, Arie, I need the efficiency. I'm a tech company. I want to save time, and I want to use that time for innovation. I said, okay, so now I know that I'm doing a lot here, right, in the efficiency area, etc., etc.
Got it.
And that's in the initial transformation. And then after a while, Hector, you're an Agile coach yourself, then teams will define what they need, and they will move forward, right?
Of course.
Based on the needs.
Yeah, I totally agree. And this is part of probably how Spotify, the Spotify model appeared, right? But instead of all the other companies applying the Spotify model, probably they should create their own models, right? There should be a Kellogg model, a Volkswagen model, right? So applying the practices that you mentioned, right? This is what I'm getting, right?
I think it was Hendrik Nieberg himself, and he did Spotify, right? The transformation. He said, there is no Spotify model. This is how it works for Spotify. You have to find your own way.
Exactly.
And the operating model is never the same. And it hurts me when I see consultancy firms spending millions of client money on defining an operating model, which is basically a copy of Spotify that you can and I can identify in 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And it's not going to help. Copying doesn't work. You have to find your own way. The real benefits of Agile working comes in that moment where you fine-tune your way of working, and not even it's exactly the same within every team. No. Teams have their own dynamics.
Yes. Okay. Thanks for sharing. You mentioned a lot the heartbeat. Could you explain a little more that concept? I have seen other videos where you mention it.
Yeah. Let me make a drawing again, Hector.
Okay.
What I found out, what very important is that if you want to go live every 2 weeks, every sprint, right?
Mm-hmm.
You cannot have your demo at the end of a sprint as an acceptance meeting. I see it happening very often. But you know what happens with an acceptance meeting? 9 out of 10. People don't accept. That's what happens.
Yeah.
And then you have a delay. And that's the one thing that you don't want. You build acceptance during your sprint. So you converge together as a team in a shared responsibility to something that is accepted by everybody. That means that you and I, if we're going into a delivery, have to identify who is able to stop my team by accepting or rejecting something. And this is where the work comes in. So I have my client, right? So there's someone, he is the sponsor. It can be a team, can be a person. managing director, whatever, right? And then you have maybe someone from his or her management team that is all the time working with you. And then, and this is very important, I call them the business ambassadors. That's something that's coming out of DSDM. I have people from the business, bringing the knowledge into the team. Why? Nobody knows as good what the business needs as the people from the business themselves. Don't have somebody else talking on behalf of the business. Right? Don't do this. And of course, we have a PO. I call him the analyst, right? Oh, sorry. Now we're going into new colors. Of course, we have people who do the actual develop. They have an impact on the solution. So let's say develop, test. And now there's coming a very important role in here, and that is what I call the non-functional stakeholders. And the reason I bring this in is that I did a lot of governmental work, and you would do something and you would have a new solution ready, and then there was the legal department. They said, no, you cannot go live, or the operations department, or the communication department, or the whatever, right? They would stop me. Now, the point is they don't impact the functionality of the solution. That's only that business people here on that flip chart. But they do have a say in accepting or rejecting, and some things, how they are working, and especially what they look and feel like, or criteria they have to meet. Going back to my drawing again, Hector, I call them the non-functional stakeholders, right? I know that when I go into my sprint, where I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in my sprint, that I know that the moment that I start here, when I'm here, everything has to be ready for production and accepted by everybody, including the non-functional stakeholders.
Okay.
They have to say yes. They have to say yes. So what I started doing in the mid-90s was identifying who can stop me. So the non-functional stakeholders. Of course, I know the business because they can stop me as well. And then I said, everybody under this line has to be in the heartbeat. And the heartbeat is an agile practice that will help you. It's 30 minutes every 2 to 3 days. Right, here you go. Every 2 to 3, 4, 5 times maybe. And what you do is you show in the heartbeat what has been made since the last heartbeat. That means that you can get feedback. So that means that everybody, including the non-functional stakeholders, they are able to give feedback to be able together to converge to something that everybody from their perspective is accepting. And of course, we have the Scrum Master and the Agile Delivery Manager here, Agile Project Manager, we called it in the past, right? And this is how I set up my teams. This is how I work. And it still is very much helping me. So you can see, in the red line, that's where the heartbeat is. And if people say, what about the rest? So if you talk about, the daily and for example, the retro, that's what you have here with this small team. But you need to have those people in there. Otherwise, you get continuously that the people don't accept what has been made. And then you have your delay. And the delay is the one thing that you can not allow yourself anymore to have.
Okay, that's awesome. So it's kind of like a daily, but not every day. But instead of a daily Scrum with the developers and product, and it's more with the business. So you validate the idea. It's more like a review, but in shorter periods of time, right?
Absolutely. So you do a lot of prototyping because you need to find a common language, because you have all those people that have, different roles, different jargon. They have their own job, right? So you need to find a common language. So the best thing is just show it. Just prototype. And it's every 2 to 3 days, maybe half an hour, no more. You get the feedback, and then, of course, there are deeper agile practices, because not every feedback has to be taken in, because you have to identify, is it valuable or not? That's all what you do in that 30-minute, right? And you're really able to converge. In terms of acceptance, the point is, I had 1 or 2 projects that were not successful in the delivery, and they were always not successful in the delivery for the same reason. I did not do my heartbeat properly and with the right people, right? And that's what you need. So I also, as an idea, what is very important to me is this one, Hector. So what we do is, right, so we have the business, right, we have development here. And what we tend to do is, we tend to put the poor PO in the middle. What we said when we wrote as a manifesto is that we want to go to face-to-face communication. We want to get the information at the source, because then you can double check. And what we do is we do still via communication. It's still remote communication. Now those people need to talk together. So I want my PO to put them at the table and to talk and have a common language. For example, a prototype. And that's what you do in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that's really awesome, Ari. So I have two comments. The first one would be that I have seen that this is an anti-pattern that is commonly happening across Latin America, at least in Mexico a lot, right? So we think that because we have a PO, that the business should only talk to the PO and the PO should talk to the developers. So the business guys do not distract the developers. But that's a very bad thing to do, right? As you just
Absolutely.
mentioned, he's just a link actually instead of a blocker, right? So I totally agree with you. And this is very common in at least in Latin America. So another comment that I want to add, one of the questions that I had for you was that I believe that many of the big thinkers like you are focusing or have been focusing on delivery more than discovery. So that's why I really like the heartbeat concept, because it involves talking to the business right away, prototyping, and this is part of a discovery process, right? I think that Scrum, for example, it's more of a delivery than a discovery process. So a lot of companies are wondering, well, at what time do I do discovery? And the heartbeat kind of introduces discovery into the Scrum process. Do you agree?
Absolutely, that's the point. I always say, people are complaining, the business, they don't never know what they want, right? Of course they don't know what they want, because you're going to make something that doesn't exist. So they have an outline, but the details no, because detailed design up front is what we don't do. So we have to accept that it's exploratory what we do. We are exploring, and it means to me that if I go into a sprint with 7 stories, and halfway it turns out that one story we have now a better version because we got feedback in the heartbeat, and we're going to kick it out and we bring a new story in. If it turns out, applying the proper agile practices like the triple constraint and Moscow, etc. Okay, this is really what we have to do. I don't have a problem with changing the stories in the sprint, because it brings the value. And people get rigid. People themselves are not open to learn. People are at the most open to copy, and then they stay really rigid to it. And the exploratory part, understanding that we say this detailed design up front doesn't work. No, so we don't have a detailed design. That means that exploratory work is part of what we do.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thanks for sharing. And people like to copy and not to think a lot about stuff, right? The big example that I can think of is the Scrum Guide. They put over there the 3 questions for the dailies, and
Yeah,
everyone started doing those 3 questions, and no one thought about doing other questions, right? You just have to have a format so you know that the team is going through the sprint goal. But we all copied those 3 questions and everyone is doing the 3 questions. They actually had to get it out of the Scrum Guide for 2020, and they didn't even put an example because they were afraid, I guess, that we will also copy that example and do it every time, right? So yeah, I follow you on that one. Ari, one
it's about,
question. Yeah.
Hector. Yeah, sorry, but it's about. I mean, you don't have to follow things by the book, but stay within the values and the principles.
Yeah.
There is no way that you can put away the responsibility to keep thinking yourself. I want to give you a very, very strange story, which is exactly the point that you were talking about.
Yeah.
I live in a very religious part of the Netherlands, Protestant religious.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived 11 years next to a church. So every morning, every Sunday morning, 9:15, the bell was, and I woke up, right? Every Sunday morning, 9:15. And then there was a new reverend coming into the church. And from one day to the other, we had a parking problem on Sunday. Because until the new reverend, the old reverend would always say, no, on Sundays you do not drive your car, because that's what the Bible doesn't allow. And then the next reverend came in and said, oh yeah, you can come with your car. Instantly, everybody in the car. What is keeping people from thinking? You cannot put away that kind of responsibility. You have to take it on.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, nice story. Okay. So, Ari, in your opinion, did this COVID pandemic accelerated our agile practices and forced us to implement some way of agile from our homes? Or do you think that it actually didn't benefit as much? It affected agility around the planet. What do you think? How did you live this pandemic?
Well, I know for sure that because of COVID, for a lot of organizations, companies, the business model has changed, at least temporarily, because a lot of the things that the people in the world do is based on a physical presence somewhere, somehow. And all of a sudden, those people are not there anymore. So you need to do. So one of the things that I know, one of the large resellers of sports gear, no, they were selling a lot of stuff for people going to the gym. And then all of a sudden, people don't go to the gym anymore because there's a lockdown. So people not only could not buy in store, because it turned out that more than 90% they were selling in store. They could not sell in store, but only they had to sell different articles. Turned out that people were going on bicycles because you weren't allowed to bicycle on your own. Can you see that? And I don't want to capitalize COVID because it's already said enough that it happened, right? But it made people aware of, hold on, the way I think the world is and the world is organized is not permanently. Something can happen. So I think from that perspective, it has been helpful. It has also been helpful on accepting video conferencing as a way to work. I did a lot of international work, as you mentioned in your introduction. So I very often had teams from 5-6 countries in heartbeats, or transformation heartbeats or whatever. That was different because there would be different offices. Two people here, 3 people there. That kind of thing. Now everybody is home. But I was working in that video conference mode for a long time already. But now people know, hey, we had to. And by the way, it wasn't that bad. So at least part of it we can keep. So you can see that, and the face-to-face communication is of course part of Agile and seeing each other. We didn't say body to body, right? I don't have to smell you. I want to see you. I want to hear you, right? That's the point. So I think we're getting close. So there are a couple of things that have really impacted positively. But also it has created a lot of stress, and stock exchange stress is always making sure that people stick where they are, right? And they become not so agile.
Yeah. Okay. Ari, so this is a tricky question. Let's say that you forgot everything that you knew right now about Agile, about Scrum, Kanban, whatever, right? Every single concept that you know about Agile has disappeared from your memory. Which course, training, book, how would you recover the essence of what you already know right now? What resource do you recommend to someone that doesn't understand Agile?
Oh, okay. So in the time that we were writing the manifesto in 2001, I worked from 1997 to 2006 for a company that was extremely agile on the inside. It was a consultancy firm, extremely agile on the inside. We had self-organizing teams. And the only thing we didn't do in the teams was sending invoices to clients and paying salaries. But anything else, innovation, making market propositions, business development, sales, contract management, delivery, hiring, firing, evaluation, rewarding, your salary, everything we did in the teams. Everything. So when you read things about trust people to get the job done and maximizing the work not done, that was on my mind when those were getting into place. We got that idea because I didn't do that myself. I started working for that company in March 1997, and a little less than a year before the company was started by 3 guys, and they were into a book. It's called Semco Style from Ricardo Semler. And Ricardo Semler inherited the company in Brazil. the company from his father was making, if I say it properly, hydraulic pumps. The company was not doing well, and he introduced that self-organizing team part with responsibility. So if you look back at Daniel Pink, autonomy, mastery, purpose, that was already in there. And in Agile, it's in Extremo, it's in there, right? If I would know nothing and I would say, forget the word software, forget about, okay, we have to deliver valuable stuff in a very good way to our market, and not just outside, but also our inside, our people. I would start reading that book again, Sam Costal.
Okay, awesome. Let's put it. I will put it on the comments so the
Yeah,
persons
very
have
good.
a way. So talking about books, could you explain the audience why should we buy your book? I know you have a book. You are the architect of your own life. What's the value behind it? Why should we buy it?
Uh, we don't like change. Human beings don't like change. And I was like 2 months ago or so. I was sitting on the couch here back home. My couch is over there, and I was watching television, and there was a neurologist, professor in neurology on television, and he explained that. I mean, you and I know you're an agile coach. People don't like change. They will always explain to you, "Oh yeah, no, it's a great idea, but not for us."
Yeah.
Right? That's the thing. And he said, okay, left and right in the back of your brain. So let's say more or less where your ears are, you have in the back, you have little organs that are called the amygdala.
Hmm.
And what the amygdala does, it instantly, when you're in a situation that you've not been before, you start feeling uncomfortable.
Okay. Being there.
And that's in your unconscious. You start feeling, you don't even know why, but you start feeling uncomfortable. So it's a natural habit to stay where we are. Now the point is, going from waterfall to agile doesn't kill you. I mean, that behavior is based on the crocodile that's lying on the banks of the river and that says, I'm alive, and if I don't move, I'm okay. If I move, I never know what happens. So I only move when I have to. Oh, now I need to eat because otherwise I die. Now I move. Right? That kind of logic is behind there. There is no lion coming from behind the trees. But still that sense of unsafety evolves and changes. We have to overcome this. And when I say you're the architect of your own life, I always say you cannot control what's coming to you.
Hmm.
Bad things happen. People get sick, accidents, floods, things happen, right? But you can decide how to handle them. Pointing at somebody else doesn't help.
Hmm.
And in the world that we live in today, where technology, the pace of innovation in technology is ridiculous fast, and it will never slow down. It will only go faster, I think, in the future, even more fast, right? So we have to understand that standing still is getting behind. You have to move forward in life, and instead of when you point at somebody else, look at this, right? When you point at somebody else, three fingers are pointing at yourself, right?
Yeah.
So take that responsibility, and you're the architect of your own life. You decide how to handle it. And that's the same thing with change. I just can't understand that people are in a working environment and they repeat what they learned 10 years ago, and they repeat it in exactly the same way because it's written down in the quality manager manual that this is the way it has to happen. For me, that doesn't, standing still is getting behind. In the world we live in today, if you have technology that is your business, part of your business model today, be prepared, because in 3 months your business model can be totally disrupted,
Hmm.
right? And that's what we need to understand. And this is where responsibility comes in for leaders, for team members, and everything in between. And the book itself, it's not a dramatic conceptual model book. It starts with the day that I was born and the way you handle things like, the passing of my parents or my divorce or the motorcycle accident that I have. We are able to handle the nice things, but how do you handle the bad things that happen? And you have to get over them in a proper way. Don't
Awesome.
let it beat you.
I will definitely buy my copy, and I will add the link to the comments in
Thank
this
you.
video, so everyone is able to look at it. We're about to go out of time, but we have two questions.
Here it
What?
is.
Ah,
There you go.
awesome.
This is the one. Right.
Looks good. Okay. So, what does a typical day looks like in Aries' life?
Ah, so the working days, especially, um, is I wake up early,
Mm-hmm.
and the first thing I do when I wake up, and my girlfriend is not always that happy with it, but I take my phone and I start reading.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know the news. So I start reading in the morning in bed. Before I get out of bed, I read two newspapers and I go to the BBC app. I just want to know what's going on in the
Mm-hmm.
world. Then I check my email. I check, you have your LinkedIn messages, you have your WhatsApp messages, you have your email. I check all my messages. I answer everything. Then it's shower, and I like time for breakfast. And it's not that it takes 45 minutes, but I make fresh orange juice, a nice cup of tea, a nice slice of toast with good Dutch cheese on it, right? And have my cup of tea and take time. I like to sit in the kitchen, which is like 3 meters from this chair. I watch the news because I put on the news on the television, right? Again. And then I go into work. I have my daily with my secretary at 9 to check out. I have a lot of sessions like I have today with you, a lot of client sessions. Sometimes it's full-time masterclasses. Sometimes it's a 2-hour masterclass. Sometimes it's a 45-minute talk. Um, COVID has changed my day, obviously, because pre-COVID, I had months that I would sleep 1 or 2 nights a month at home, and the rest I would be. So, do you recognize that you wake up in a bed and you think, "Where the hell am I?" You don't even know where you are. Which country? Which country? Where am I? Where is in the dark? Where is the bathroom? Where's the bathroom? Which direction do I get out of bed? That kind of thing is gone. It will be coming back. And I like that because I have now a window to the future with Armenia, Finland, Germany, working on Latin America, Colombia, Peru with the APAM organization, working
Oh,
on
nice.
it, right? So we're trying to get that. So I hope that will be coming back because I love that part of my job. But that's the work. I produce, I write, I have a lot of one-on-one. Sometimes people just Arie, can I call? If I have time, I make 15 minutes. I call with people. They have maybe a really burning question. I help them forward. At the end of every day, Hector, I will make sure that I read all my emails. I never go to bed without unread emails. I
Nice.
do not reply all, but the urgent ones are replied to. Then I put the ones that I think, I handle that tomorrow. I put it back on unread and I go to sleep. It's off my mind. I can sleep.
Awesome. Well, thank you for letting me be one of those replied
Yeah,
emails,
yeah,
right? Um,
yeah.
so we are out of time. I want to be very respectful of your time, Ari. But one last question: what question did I miss? What question would you have done to you if you were in my place that you would like to answer? Is there any question like this?
Maybe Hector. Sometimes one of the things that happened to me because I was representing the DSDM community, right? And
Mhm.
there are people in the community say, "Oh, I got the call before Ari. Ari was the one who said yes, and I just couldn't make it." I said no. And the one thing that is, that and people ask me, "What makes the difference in life?" I think the difference in life is when you say yes, not when you say no. You have to be part of it. You have to feel it. You have to have the drive. I do recognize it. But the difference is made by people who say yes.
That's awesome.
And that question, going there, okay, what does it take? It takes to say yes. You're the architect of your own life. That line, right?
Yeah. That's a great way of closing this interview. I really appreciate you, Ari, being here. It was a real honor. I think it was a great conversation, and I hope that we can at some point get together again and talk about other topics. I have a lot of more questions, but let's keep it for some other occasion. Social networks. Where can the audience find you if they want to know more about you? LinkedIn, Twitter. Could you share with them if they want to keep in touch with you?
Yeah. So I am on Instagram and Facebook, like most people are. And although Instagram and Facebook tend to be more, for private life, I have people from countries connecting where LinkedIn is not allowed, and they need a channel. So I started using those as well. That's more about me, though. less about work. Very simple. LinkedIn is, I think, my leading channel where I do things. You can find me on YouTube, things that I have done, recordings of stuff, and great. But LinkedIn is where I do a lot of publications, where I am interacting with people. I always say, connect to me if you like. And if you have a question, just put it in the direct message of LinkedIn, and within a day you have an answer, right? And as you have noticed, right? So that's where I can be found. I would say you have my website, of course, and the one thing that I also like is the Mighty Networks app. Mighty Networks is a community app, and the Agnostic Agile community has an area there, so people can always connect to the Mighty Networks Agnostic Agile part. I'm there as well. We have events that we do. The last event was January 20, where we did first 3 hours in Australia, New Zealand. Then we did 3 hours in Europe, Middle East, Africa. Then we did 3 hours in China, and then we did 3 hours in Latin America, Argentina. So we had 12 hours of Agile event there. It's a really international, global community. So you can find me there as well.
Awesome. Arie Van Bennekum, thank you for being here at Scrum Express with Hector, and I hope to see you soon, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Hector, for your time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for being here. Please subscribe to the channel and give us a like if you liked what you just saw, right? Thank you, guys. See you next time.